Greetings to all. Now we are going to study about lesson 1 of history, the rise of nationalism in Europe. This lesson deals with many of the issues visualized by Sarajevo and will look at the diverse processes through which nation states and nationalism came into being in 19th century Europe. So this is the painting done by Sarajevo, Frederick Sarajevo. A French artist in 1848 prepared a series of 4 prints visualizing his dream of a world made up of democratic and social republics. The first print shows the people of Europe and America marching in a long train. Here you can see the people walking in a long train and to the Statue of Liberty as they pass it. The Torch of Enlightenment. Here the Torch of Enlightenment was carried by a female figure in one hand and the Charter of Rights of Man in another hand. On the earth, in the foreground, lie the shattered remains of the symbols of absolutist institutions. In Sarajevo's utopian vision, the people of the world are grouped as distinct nations, identified through their flags and national costume. The procession was led by the United States and Switzerland, followed by the France and Germany. Following the German people are the people of Austria, the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies, Lombardy, Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary, Russia. During the 19th century, nationalism emerged as a force which brought huge changes in the political and mental world of Europe. The end result of these changes was the emergence of nation state. The French Revolution and the idea of nation. Symbols of collective identity: La Patrie, the fatherland; Les Citoyens, the citizen; the French tricolor; the National Assembly; hymns, oaths, and commemoration of martyrs; centralized administration and uniform laws; abolition of internal duties and dues; uniform system of weights and measures; use of Parisian French. French impact of Europe. Mission to liberate European countries. Formed despotism. Students set up Jacobin clubs in other countries. These clubs helped the French invasion of their countries. What is the Napoleon Code? Return of monarchy. Democracy destroyed in France by Napoleon and the Civil Code of 1804, known as Napoleonic Code, did away with all privileges based on birth, established equality before the law, and secured the right to property. Resentment against France, loss of political freedom, increased taxes, censorship of news and views, forced conscription into French army to fight wars. And European society was the making of nationalism in Europe. Germany, Italy, and Switzerland were divided into kingdoms, duchies, and cantons. The aristocracy and the new middle class. The aristocracy was the dominant class in the continent, politically and socially. The majority of the population was made up of peasantry. Industrialization began in England in the second half of the 18th century. New social groups came into being. A working class population and middle classes made up of nationalist businessmen and professionals. These are the aristocrats and the peasants. Impact of the Industrial Revolution, rise of the middle class. Growth of cities and towns, emergence of commercial classes, rise of middle class, consistence. They were educated and liberal minded. They wanted the removal of aristocratic privileges. Growth of urban middle class, liberal nationalism. Social liberals, social liberalism is end of the aristocracy and clerical privilege. Freedom of the individual and equality before law. Freedom of the press. Political liberation. Government by consent, constitution, a representative parliament. Individuality of private property. Universal suffrage women and non-proprietary men. Economic liberalism. Zollverein, demand for the unified economy territory, allowing the unhindered movement of goods, peoples, and capital by the middle class. In 1834, a customs union called the Zollverein was formed by Prussia and joined by the German staff. Tariff barriers were abolished. Currency reduced from 30 to only 2. Change brought by conservatism. Return of aristocratic regimes did not tolerate dissent of criticism. There were censorship laws brought in to limit the spread of liberal ideas. The revolutionaries. Giuseppe Mazzini, you can see here. Who is Giuseppe Mazzini? He was an Italian revolutionary, member of Carbonari, founder of Young Italy and Young Europe. Believed that God intended nations to be the natural units of mankind, described as the most dangerous enemy of the conservative social order. So, the age of revolutions. Uh, Romanticism and nationalism. Culture played an important role in creating the idea of nation. Art and poetry, stories and music helped express the shape nationalist feelings. Romanticism, a cultural movement which sought to develop a particular form of nationalist sentiment. Language also played an important role in developing nationalist sentiments. The Polish Polon- Polonaise, the Polish mazurka. Hunger, hardship, and popular revolt. Europe faced economic hardships in the 1830s. The first half of the 19th century saw an enormous increase in population all over Europe. The rise of food prices or a year of a bad harvest led to widespread pauperism in town and country. In 1848, food shortages and widespread unemployment brought the population of Paris out of the roads. The Revolution of the Liberals. 1848, the revolution led by the educated middle classes was underway. Men and women of the liberal middle class demanded creation of a nation state on parliamentary principles, a constitution, freedom of the press, and freedom of association. A large number of political associations came together in Frankfurt to vote for an all-German National Assembly. And on 18th May 1848, 831 elected representatives marched to take their places in the Frankfurt Parliament convened in the Church of St. Paul. This is the Church Paul. You can see the Frankfurt Assembly. The constitution drafted for German nation was headed by a monarchy, subject to a parliament. The crown was offered to Friedrich Wilhelm IV, King of Prussia, but he rejected it and joined other monarchs to oppose the elected assembly. The middle class dominated the parliament, and a large number of women participated in the liberal movement. So, the making of Germany and Italy. Germany. Can the army be the architect of a nation? Nationalism in Europe moved away after 1848, and Germany and Italy came to be unified as nation states. Russia took over the leadership of the movement for national unification. The architect of this process was its chief minister, Otto von Bismarck, carried out with the help of the Prussian army and bureaucracy. In January 18, this is Otto von Bismarck. Prussian King William I was proclaimed German emperor. Italy was divided into 7 states in the middle of the 19th century, and among all these 7 states, Sardinia, Piedmont was ruled by an Italian princely house. All the regions were dominated by different kings. In the 1830s, Giuseppe Mazzini formed a secret society called Young Italy. The movement was led by Chief Minister Cavour. In 1859, Sardinia-Piedmont defeated Austria forces. In 1860, they marched into South Italy and the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies and succeeded in winning the support of the local peasants. In 1861, Victor Emmanuel II was proclaimed King of United Italy. The strange case of Great Britain, that is, unification of Great Britain. It was a model of nation, and prior to the 18th century, there was no British nation. The nation became powerful as it steadily grew in wealth, importance, and power. The Act of Union 1707 between England and Scotland resulted in the formation of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, meant in effect that England was able to impose its influence on Scotland. In 1801, Ireland was forcibly incorporated into the United Kingdom. The symbols of New Britain, the British flag, Union Jack, the national anthem, God Save Our Noble King, the English language were actively promoted. Nationalism in the Balkans. The Ottoman Empire was a dominant Muslim regime ruling over predominantly Christian people. So Turkey, Ottoman Empire, Turkey, thus ruling the whole Balkan area before and after Russia-Turkish War of 1878. In spite of nationalist revolutions in Western Europe and inspired by romantic nationalistic feelings, the ethnic constituents of the Balkans demanded liberty. They based their claims on their distinct national identities and historical references to earlier state of independence. As the Ottoman Empire weakened, the various nations broke free. Thank you, children. We come to the end of the lesson.